Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rest is Lean podcast. And today, joined by Russell Watkins, who's in my screen down there and a bit too close. Well, scary. And over there, we've got Alan Lothian, who's some sort of rapper, I think, today. And we have a podcast for every couple of weeks, shares our ramblings, thoughts, musings, philosophizing on the subjects of lean change, implementing change in real companies and getting benefits. But we hope and seem to think you guys enjoy. So, on the front of people enjoying and getting involved, we have had a few communications since the last podcast. And in the last session, we were doing a little sesh, I think prompted by Russell, something to do with dying on hills. What was the phrase you used, Russ?
The smallest hill you die on, i.e.,
Yeah,
the trivial thing that you defend to your last breath that nobody else cares about.
absolutely. And we had a really good chat around that, really enjoyed it. One of the topics that came up was tact and some of the variations thereof. And we've had a question from one of our subscribers, which is, can you talk some more about how you might deal with variations in tact, allowances for problems on tact, etc. And I think, Al, I think you got some thoughts about some stuff we could feedback or you'd like to feedback to this particular customer.
Yeah, no problem. Because I think we were running heavily out of time, weren't we, with the
Yeah.
last one? So yeah, I think for those of you that saw the episode, the last episode, then Ross had mentioned about, or we were just the difference between tack time and target cycle time, and the pros and cons for both,
Hmm.
and the differences between our learnings and our teaching,
Hmm.
shall we say, between our friends at Toyota, Nissan, Honda, etc. And Russell came up with a really, really good point in terms of, I think, and again, I think you used the phrase is obviously using target cycle time because there might be some what we would call real world problems, maybe add an element of realism of current situation.
Hmm.
And then the trade off with that is actually the pure, or what I would argue the more purest way is tact is tact,
Yeah.
because in theory that would drive you towards perfection
Yeah.
and it should help you surface or bring all the opportunities to improve to the surface.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Russ, but I think one of the things you mentioned was actually saying, look, as long as we're showing the opportunity or visualizing the opportunity between tact and the target cycle time, and somebody is accountable for closing that gap, then that would be deemed appropriate or acceptable.
In
I've got
certain
that right, Russ.
circumstances, yeah,
In certain
yeah, cock
circumstances, yeah.
on, yeah.
What we did is basically tact is tact is tact, but the easier way, or I found, of visualizing the opportunity is through the overtime or the additional time the line needed to work in
Yeah.
order to meet the real demand of the customer.
Yeah.
Okay. Purely and simply because that's probably a more recognizable measure or metric that we capture in
Hmm.
most businesses. So driving it that way, but one point which is similar for both is making sure that you've got someone or a group of people who are accountable and responsible for reducing that overtime to zero.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
Makes
Okay.
I,
sense.
I can
Yeah.
certainly remember visiting, I think Nissan Washington, as in UK Washington,
Mhm.
way on back. I could be 20 years ago now, so probably doesn't sing true at the moment. And they were certainly running to a true tact. This is the pace we need to run at in order to deliver the cars that we've promised. And the lines ran at that. And occasionally, of course, andons get pulled, lines get stopped. You get towards the end of the shift, and all the time on the big boards, you'd see clocking up the forecast overrun time.
Mhm.
So, how much more time the production line would have to run beyond end of standard work in order to complete the right number of vehicles. And that kind of worked for them. because they had an agreement of unpaid overtime.
Hmm.
Mhm.
People basically worked to a limit,
That's right.
Yeah.
carried on until they'd done the right number of cars,
Yeah.
which really focused everybody's minds and was quite good to incentivize people to solve problems quickly and on the fly, not let problems build up and become chronic. You know, they tend to be acute one-offs, all that
Yeah.
sort of good stuff. I also remember it working in, I was going to say Rover, but it was actually Phoenix at the time, which is
Mm.
supposed to have
Oh, yeah,
rising from
yeah.
the ashes, but it was
Yeah, the Magic
more
Four
of
who
a
fleeced it. Yeah.
bird diving into the ashes at the time.
And
Um,
coming out wealthy.
yeah, and they'd introduced, and I'm not sure if any of the other car plants where I've been around have actually done it, a job and knock system. So if you're unfamiliar with the phrase, it's very common in construction world generally. The idea of here's the task for you to do today. When you've done the task, go home. So in a construction business, obviously that's pretty easy to understand. Lay these bricks. You know, I
Ah.
know how many bricks people can lay in a day. I want that wall making, please. If you achieve it quicker than normal, job done. Knock off.
Hmm.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yes. And what Rover did, and it was quite cute. I know other people have thought about using it. Was if the line finished the products
Sooner, they would know.
sooner, they called time earlier, but they banked the number. They
Yeah.
banked the spare time. So people have gone and it's 15 minutes before end of shift. So that was kind
Yeah.
of bang.
Hey,
And over
John,
time
there's a
that built up.
yeah.
And when the cars didn't get produced, there was a Nissan-esque expectation of people working on,
That the bank
Mm.
time would be used.
but the limit was the banked time.
Hmm.
John, it sounds cute, but there's a flaw in that.
Yeah, there's lots of flaws in it.
And the significant flaw is it's a variant of piecework, as in you are setting your stall out and saying we cannot hit a standard time.
Yep.
That's what you're effectively saying. We cannot hit a
You need
standard
all
time
these mechanisms because we will fail.
Hmm.
because we
And you're,
so rather than address the failure points, we're going to put in a pretty slick system that balances it all out at some point in the future.
yeah. And there was a bit of cute thinking in there, but didn't quite pay off. Rover-esque in many ways of you were kind of incentivizing fast cars, as in they got built fast, not right cars.
Yeah, or safe
Today,
cars, safely built cars.
today,
Yeah.
they thought they'd catch that back with, oh, of course, if they're not good cars, then we're going to find rework and the line's going to slow down and you'll have to stay back. So it
Okay.
balances out. But the reality of the psyche of the workforce was not quite sophisticated enough for that. And it was, let's get these out. There's a football match on
Mm.
and worry about that tomorrow. Grave jam today, I think is the expression.
Mm.
It raises, okay,
Interesting.
that's quite interesting actually, because it,
Somebody who works for, or worked, I should say, for Rover or Phoenix can probably correct on the details behind that. But, as a concept, it's
no,
job and
Hams Hall,
knock was a thing.
BMW Hams Hall did exactly the same thing. Cowley do, I'm not sure if Cowley do it today. When I first saw that example, the first time saw the example that you mentioned, it was the second time I saw it, was actually in the same place as you mentioned, but
Mm,
also my first time was in Hams Hall, and it got me thinking afterwards. Okay, and again, you know me, I'm always thinking about what the way we set things up and how does that drive human
mm,
behavior, right? And the first thing I think Russell yourself mentioned then is the danger is that we rush and it's more haste, less speed. Okay, so we speed up at the expense of quality, or dare I say, it's safety.
yeah.
Okay, but then, in terms of the flip side to that, is if you've got the right culture, are you not just effectively saying, look, guys, I'm going to pay you whether you do it in 8 hours, but if you do it in 7 hours and 45 minutes, I'll still pay you 8 hours.
Mm.
Okay. In some other way, is that not driving the behavior the natural behavior of finding improvements? Is it not a case of just managing
It
the
it is,
mindset
Al.
of rushing and
Yeah.
at the expense of quality or safety? Because if you have the day and you hit it 15 minutes earlier, but you've had an accident in the day, or one of those vehicles has been sent into the retro state, into retrofit, for example, okay, or we've had an increase in pulled and activated andons, that would count against them.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of, I know looking into the contractual side of things, I think it wasn't as simplistic as what we were putting out. A lot of
No.
those intricacies were included within the contracts.
But Al, I'm not sorry, gents. I'm not having this.
He's on a hill.
Because
He's on a hill.
because let's say on Monday you do it in 7.25 hours, yeah, and you go home 45 minutes early. If on Tuesday you do it in 9 hours, and then Wednesday is 7.75, and then Thursday is 8.5, I don't see much stability in that. And I don't see, if that pattern, sawtooth pattern, continues in terms of our standard time is varying to a large margin. You want to see the varying time, the range of that compress over time, because that means you're getting smarter at being more stable, less breakdowns, less quality problems, more repeatable operations. Your CPCPKs are improving. So I think you're right to mention incentives and human incentives. I don't see the incentive to deal with this, with the instability.
Yeah, so the going home early wouldn't necessarily happen. That's the bit I disagree with, which I do believe, and somebody may come back to us and say, oh, I'm wrong here, but I do believe that was part of certain organisations who ran that particular system. But the idea generally was, if you think about an employee on the line or anywhere else in the business, I think one of the things that you find with a lot of certainly companies that I've worked in or gone into is finding the time in the day for your operator to do all the non-value added stuff. And what I mean by one of those things I'm talking about is ongoing development and training. Okay. Because it gets in the way of the day to day, because we're not that clever.
And new starters getting demonized because they're slowing the line down.
Absolutely, all that good stuff, which is a reality of any business, isn't it? We've got to make sure we provide adequate time. We can't be 100% banged on it all the time, because there's other shit we've got to deal with. Okay, let's say you take the day where you had 8 hours, but you actually got the job done in 7 hours and 30 minutes, for example. Okay, now what I mean by that is, whatever you got out in the day wasn't just a volume or quantity issue. The quality was good. Everybody had the same fingers and toes at the end of it. Okay. I have now got 30 minutes of time to do all the outside value, ongoing development, training stuff. So there is time in the day. What you're actually doing, which I believe, is you're actually then driving the right type of continuous improvement. You're measuring SQCDP.
Yeah.
But also you're naturally getting them. Well, if I finish that bit earlier, I've then got the time to do to do the training and onboarding and ongoing development.
But Al, to get that half an hour saving on the line, you must have saved half an hour at the bottleneck, for argument's sake. You'd argue that, yeah?
Well, that's only if you've achieved the end system. But each individual department's got their own output or target for the day, hasn't it? Yeah.
Okay, for simplicity, for argument's sake, if the whole line has saved half an hour and everybody can knock off half an hour earlier, that means that you've got an improvement to the standard. So you should be adjusting the standard time because you found a better way of doing it somewhere in that system.
Not
there
necessarily.
is a better way. Well,
not necessarily, because you're not. I want to go back to your first point. You're not going to have everybody start on a particular day having the same amount of time. You are, if you're going to have an assembly line, if you've got the assembly approach, because you're tied to the pace of the line. Yeah,
I got you.
But in a lot of manufacturers, you haven't. Each department's going to be different for the day. Some might be an hour early, some might be an hour over.
Okay, but if someone's an hour early, they've improved the standard somewhere.
Yes.
So the question becomes, what do we do with that improvement of standard? Do we just bank it for the day and hope we can keep it going, or do we adjust the standard to that? Because actually, it's a fake. if I'm channeling Mixam now, yeah, that is an opportunity to improve, an improvement in the standard, or it's a failure in planning in that we're actually better than we thought that we were going to be.
Well, the standard may not necessarily be improved on that particular day, because don't forget you've got variability throughout the system. So arguably one day wouldn't be the same each day. You're not naturally, if you get your requirement out, and I'm talking safety, quality, and volume, okay, on one particular day, that might be different. Your target the following day or the next shift may actually be different, because you will have had variability somewhere else in the system.
Yeah, and you're always going to have variability. Well, let's take out the system, because that complicates it. Because you've got, let's think about a cell, an area, a part of the business. If they're knocking off half an hour early, someone somewhere in there, probably in a bottleneck, has found a way to do things better. Or we have less instability than we planned for, less downtime, less quality problems.
Yeah.
If we've had less downtime and less quality problems, for example, rather than cycle time improvement through Kaizen, then we need to understand why previous defects we've had are no longer there today, or they're lesser, or why are we not having breakdowns that we normally have, or short stops chockate that we normally have, and how can we repeat this day so that we can all have this glorious feeling again?
Yeah, so you're now looking at the variability within a given cycle time. Yeah. Whereas
not cycle time. No. I'm talking about within an area. So machine breakdown, incoming quality parts mean that the shop or the line gets stopped. So I'm not talking about somebody's cycle time. I'm talking about things that affect the way the cell works, or the factory, whatever.
So on that given data, so if you take a typical, I don't know, one person workstation with a machine and a bit of assembly, okay, and you've got a target today of getting 100 widgets out in that 8 hours, okay. We all know that process isn't perfect. All right, there's opportunity on that particular day. Initially, that target may differ each day, because their next process will be, which is in turn their internal customer, could be requiring something different following day based on other customers, internal customers' demand. On that given day, you might find that machine, for whatever reason, has a breakdown. All right. I'm not saying that we would never deal with that and address it. Okay, absolutely. But at the end of the day, from a system perspective, if they've still managed to hit the target from a safety, quality, and volume perspective, it's not the biggest issue in the world, because the system has still achieved what it needs to do. I'm not so in terms of the system, because if you improve it and I make 120 apart from 100, I'm defeating the object, because the system's now got 20 more units that it actually needs. Yeah.
So Al, if you've got I'll make a final point on this. I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily, but I'm going to say, let's say you've got high blood pressure here, and for a period of time over the summer, 4 weeks, you drop a bit of weight, you get a bit firmer, and your diet improves, and suddenly your blood pressure drops. Yeah, you come within more margins, so you are doing better for a bit. Yeah. It's in your interest to understand what you accidentally did right, or what went right during that period, so that you have a longer life. All I'm saying is, I understand that there are problems, of course there are, but it's probably useful to have mechanisms where if you do better than you plan to, that you understand why.
I totally agree.
So that you can copy that forward. This conversation started with John and Rover, and some days are over, some days are under. It all nets off, and we bank it. The problem with a clever mechanism is that the mechanism takes over, and you cease to look at the overs and unders.
Yes. Yeah. It all becomes allowable, normal part of the game. Rather than what the hell went on there. To give us a different angle on the same point. I mean, every client we go into, no doubt, says, "Yeah, but we're special, we're different." And we probably spend a lot of time explaining, oh, I hear you. Yeah, yeah, but you're not.
You've never worked in this sort of environment before. That can't possibly happen. You
Yeah,
only
yeah,
deal with cars
Yeah.
and bits
yeah.
that go into cars.
There is, I think, a category that it does bring in some different arguments and some different things. And car plants do form part of that, in that companies which have large numbers of people working on the same product do have some other games they can play. But somebody who's got a cell of 5 people making, I don't know, boilers for houses, they're not going to have the same opportunities. So if we just think about one of the big outfits now, if we can get ahead of Tact, if we're able to knock off early, and it becomes, oh, that was an interesting one, away we go. But we start repeating it. To Russell's point, the standard has changed. Or maybe we did it for 3 days in a row and then we had a bit of a blip and it all went pear-shaped and it came back. But what we found is the opportunity is there to go 7.5 hours.
Yes.
And again, this is very much from my Japanese Jamasta, my Honda guy in my ear. He said, whenever you've got a large business and you're getting ahead of the game like that, you could reset the standard and run at 7.5 hours, and you're going to fail sometimes. And that's one way of going. He said, in our businesses, what we do is we would take out the number of people that would slow the job down to 8 hours again. Now, that's a piece of work in itself. We would calculate how many less people we think it needs. But to our mantra, you would never get CI to work if it was about losing heads. What they're doing then is they're building a pool of people, and big outfits can easily say, oh, say 15 minutes. We've just found 15 people. That 15 people then becomes a project team, and that project team is there to find out how the 15 minutes was saved and lock it
How to make
To
that
bake it in.
opportunity a reality.
and preferably push it further.
Correct.
And once they have achieved that, they are rewarded with the pat on the back, and they're rewarded by, the standards reset.
But then what happens?
At which point, when the standards reset, they're now needed. Because what you do is you up the pace of the line, knowing you've got 15 more people you can sprinkle in amongst it. Because if we can do the right number of vehicles with 15 people watching it, what can we do in another way? And of course, if you haven't got the sales for it, then you look at shortening days, you look at all sorts of things, and it becomes a leaner and leaner approach. But their idea is take a chunk of people and use them.
Stress the area in a manageable way.
So you're creating
And
the
where you're
capacity.
doing training, within that group is not just the group of people that you want to find out what went on. It's, oh, we've got half a dozen people who've never had the new respirator training. It's 2 days. It's real pain. Well, guess what? Anybody who needs respirator training
We
is
can
in
do
this
it now.
group of people that comes out of the line.
Exactly. And the system
Or, John-
isn't affected by that.
Correct.
We're allowed to do that.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
It only
Or-
works when you've got large numbers, though.
Yeah.
Or John, but SMEs, for example, then, and let's bring it back to SMEs because it's tougher for them.
Yep.
We got a client currently who they got 150 people. It's like a family, an extended family. And the downside of that, with long service, the family feel, is that people have been in certain departments forever.
Yes.
And they don't want to become multi-trick.
Yes.
They don't want to move elsewhere, and they're having to be quite open now and say, look, our volumes are varying across the piece. So sometimes we don't need 10 people in area A. We need 7, and 3 of you need to be able to help us by going across to cutting.
Absolutely.
And they're
Absolutely.
and they're saying, no, I'm a stuffer. I'm not a cutter. And they're
Yes.
saying, well, the world has changed.
Correct.
So that cross training, we don't talk about this a lot, but particularly with SMEs, I think we're talking opportunity being identified here. Any opportunity that's given where you can release somebody, cross skill them.
Yes.
That's why you have the 8th waste.
Yes,
Yeah.
waste of
Yeah.
skills or human
Right.
intellect or wherever you want to term it.
Yeah.
Absolutely with you on that, Russ. And I think the one of the keys to unlocking the success of a lot of companies I work with is they they don't need to be faster. They don't even need to be better. They just need to work with their people on agility, flexibility, cross training,
Mm-hmm.
and have some grown-up discussions with people who say, "Oh, as you've seen, I bricked up all the windows. So I don't need a window cleaner anymore." And the window cleaner going, "Sorry, mate, I'm a window cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
I'll wait until the glass gets dirty. But we don't need a. We've got no windows. Yeah, trouble in it. You've got to have some really grown-up conversations and say,
Breaking
Absolutely.
up all the windows.
I asked you if you come
Absolutely.
and play in my factory
Yeah.
and do things that I wanted. It was a window cleaner when you
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Get
Exactly.
people educated to the idea that A, you need to be flexible, and even the ones that have never been asked to be flexible, be ready for their
Yeah.
own benefit. And good
Yeah.
companies should be helping them to be ready for their own benefit.
And I would say that's true agility within the company then,
Yes,
because they can flex, because you're going to need
yes,
to, because arguably we're never going to be on this planet where everything's going to be perfectly stable. And
yeah,
that's part of the reason where there's that dichotomy with between, I wouldn't say between lean and theory of constraints is the foundational thought about lean theory of constraints is the reality is there is going to be variability within your business. It isn't
mm,
instantaneously going to go away.
yeah.
So you're going to need to have a mechanism to deal with that. And we have that mechanism. Kanban, which I think from the previous
Armband.
Oh,
podcast was, allows us to control. I don't need to make any more. Stop
no.
being busy fools.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've
Please stop
that
making
high
work and making it look like you are working.
exactly right. The idle time shows the
Sit on a
opportunity.
bench. It's good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how slick we
Exactly
are.
right.
Sit on a bench. When
Exactly right.
somebody says you've got nothing better to do, nope.
But then for
Would you
another
like something to do?
podcast,
The answer should be yes.
exactly. So yeah, so another podcast is unless you've got the FD who walks on the shop floor
Yeah,
or the MD walks down the shop floor and says,
yeah,
why is that operator sat there doing nothing? He's actually being productive.
yeah.
How can he be productive? The problem is we're looking at that area in isolation and
Mm.
not looking at the whole system. What fundamentally causes that is actually the way we cost our products and its traditional cost
Yeah.
accounting methods.
Yeah. Standard costing.
That ultimately drives the wrong behavior. That
Yeah, it
make no
does. Yeah.
bones about everything that we're all
Oh, it
talking
is. Yeah.
about today. Yeah,
Amortization of cost over
it's
an replacement
garbage.
mad. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Quite an interesting concept to start considering skills in the same way as inventory, because we would consider inventory waste. You can broaden it out and you can tell me I'm in the wrong categories. It doesn't matter. We made too many overproduction. We've got too many nuts and bolts because we got a big discount. We bought them in. We've got a load of space that we don't need, but it's free. All that sort of stuff. Excess. Let's call it excess.
Mhm.
We know it's waste. We recognise it's waste. Not all of it would we burn or chuck into the sea, but there's no point in making any more. I think that when companies are overdoing things, we need to redirect that effort into the only valuable excess is skills. So overskill your people. We
Hmm.
don't need 3 extra people with ILM level 4. No, I know you don't. It's great, isn't it? You've got whip of it. There
As
is
long
a
as
downside to that, and it then feeds into agility, which again, on its first level of sophistication, people are saying, "Oh, I might need to take the welders off the line and get some of them in the paint shop
yeah,
because things are changing." Yeah, that's great. How many people have you got in your paint shop and your weld shop who could take on a role as a team leader? Oh, we've got enough team leaders. One could get run over, one's going to win the lottery. And then what about we put in a new product line? What about we decide to double productivity by
yeah,
having parallel lines? Oh, well, it's a big set. Not if you got loads of leaders.
yeah.
Not if you got double ups on all the skills.
Mhm.
It's the only excess waste, the inventory, the overproduction turned into something else. Is it the waste of human intellect? I would say it's like the opposite. It's
Yeah.
a reservoir or hopper. we want to create. And I think that's a real missed opportunity. People just don't get it.
It's
And
a
they're
good direction.
probably the problem is people like me are saying it who are in roughly the world of providing training.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course I'm
Well,
going to
no,
vote for it.
I mean, some people are. I do meet some enlightened MDs who do say that, but they are way fewer than the ones who don't. Yeah.
Mm.
Listen, that was fascinating. I like a lively debate because it challenges my my approach. So that was I really enjoyed that, gents. I think we should probably start wrapping up, shouldn't we?
I think we need to. Some people are going to bed.
Indeed, yeah. but I do think we should talk about inventory again and possibly the relationship to skill. Because that's interesting to think about. So, quote of the week: "You can't be a little bit pregnant."
Are you trying to tell us something, Russ?
I use that quite a lot. In that, it's almost related. If you're a Star Wars head, it's almost related to Yoda. There is no try. There is only do or do not. There are points where you have to look somebody in the eye and say, "Look, we can use all the semantics we like, and we can be crafty with words. But either we're going to sign up to do this or we're not."
Yeah.
You can't half do it. You can't be a little bit pregnant.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
That's one I use in my lean life. And the email address, I'm right this time, I know I am, is isn't there something better on TV instead of this @gmail.com.
Well, on the grounds that the whole of this episode spiraled out of one random viewer sending in a question that triggered Alan.
More.
Please send us some more comments and questions. And I don't recommend that particular email address. I don't think we check that one very often. Which one do we check most often, Al?
That one would be therestislean@gmail.com.
That's it.
Contact us there or put a comment below this video if you're watching on YouTube, and we will enjoy getting back to you, or maybe we spin it into the next podcast. So from us, until next time, see you all.
Cheers, everyone. Be good.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.